I was wrong about the plants. I was wrong. I used to think that plant foods were completely necessary. In 2009, 2010, Jessica and I were doing a vegan diet, eating nothing but plant foods. Of course, it felt better than a standard American diet. But after a decade of kind of embarking on our journey to use diet, lifestyle to curate our health, I've realized that I was completely wrong about the necessity of plants. We've been promoting a ketogenic diet for almost 5 years now. Been eating a ketogenic diet for over 5 years. And what I've found, personally, is I don't need the plant foods. Not only do I not need the plant foods, I feel better without them. My body functions better, I digest better, better mental clarity. Now, I'm not saying that plants are bad. I love the taste of plants. I actually really enjoy like steamed broccoli with a bunch of butter and salt. We've got a whole section on vegetables in the Ketogenic Edge cookbook, our cookbook. We call it the training manual for low carb, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine. We've got a whole section on how to make plants more bioavailable. We can teach you even how to ferment certain preparations, how to make things like sauerkraut, and traditional ways of preparing and storing vegetables and make them more bioavailable and digestible. People have been doing this for thousands of years. I love sauerkraut. I just don't find myself eating it anymore. It's a funny thing. Now, this whole carnivore diet fad, as people call it, has actually been around a lot longer than most of us realize. That guy Owsley, he was eating a carnivorous diet nearly his entire life. I talked to Andrew Scarborough 5 years ago, or maybe it was 4 years ago. Andrew Scarborough, if you search on my channel, I did several interviews with him. Might have done 3 interviews, I think 2 or 3. I'm gonna have Andrew on again. Big shout out to Andrew Scarborough, cancer survivor. Used a ketogenic diet, completely animal-based, in order to treat his epileptic tendencies after having a big brain tumor removed. And his cancer didn't come back. What Andrew ended up finding, however, on his ketogenic diet is that he had to go a little bit further than most. Cutting down the carbs, eating fibrous leafy green vegetables and stuff like that wasn't working for him. And a lot of people advocate for the use of copious amounts of vegetables. I used to advocate for the consistent use of vegetables. Maybe not copious amounts, but I used to believe that it was necessary for a balanced diet. But now looking at it, the way I see it, perhaps some of us don't need to balance out our diet with vegetables. Perhaps some people do better without them. In the case of Andrew, he was very sensitive to things like salicylates and oxalates and phytates and these anti-nutrients that are in plant foods. Right? These plants have defense mechanisms. Just like you and I fight to stay alive, these things do as well. If I were to take a bunch of these leaves from this thorny thing that just poked me, I could die. Many of the plants that surround me right now, if I were to eat a handful of them, would put me in the hospital. That's because these plants have mechanisms to keep us from eating them. We don't have a rumen to digest foods like this. I mean, a cow, a horse, a goat, they're able to ferment this into usable energy. They change it into long-chain fatty acids. And they've got a very different digestive structure than us. Now, I'm not saying we're not meant to eat plants. What I am saying, though, is that the defense mechanisms in many of these plants make them difficult for some people to consume. And when we consume a lot of them, things like oxalate, we can get deposits in old scar tissue, or we have old injury sites. They can disrupt gut function and the absorption of nutrients. So with a guy like Andrew, who was dealing with a disrupted gut, who was dealing with gut permeability issues and a major brain tumor. Removing the plant foods was necessary for him to maintain that homeostasis in the brain, to get the benefits of ketogenic diet as a adjunct therapy for his cancer treatment. And that was kind of my first exposure to somebody eating a zero-carb diet. Now, Andrew was eating nutrient-dense foods like offal. He was eating liver. He was eating different parts of the animal. He was eating the sweetbreads. He was eating all the parts of the animals that we teach you how to prepare in the Ketogenic Edge cookbook. We got a whole section on how to make organ meats. I mean, these are the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal. The vitamin A content in liver is higher than any other food on the planet. The amount of DHA you're gonna get from eating brain, which obviously not everybody's gonna eat brain, but I really like it. The amount of DHA you'll get from foods like that, I know Andrew likes lamb's brain as well. The amount of DHA you're gonna get from it, you're not gonna find in almost any other animal food other than fatty fish, but you're not gonna find that in any other part of the animal either. You're also not gonna find those nutrients in any plant food. So Andrew used these different parts of the animal. He actually ate insects as well. He was making cricket bread back in the day. So I gotta talk to Andrew again. I wanna find out what he's eating now. I know that his gut has gotten better and he's actually able to handle more plant foods now. And he's been able to add certain plant foods back into the mix, and he's constantly testing and improving on his methods. But long story short, the plants might not be as important in the human diet as we all have been led to believe. Now, I'm not saying everybody should remove plants. In fact, I don't think most people should go on a carnivorous diet. It's not practical for most people. This is something that came naturally for me after learning how to prepare nutrient-dense keto foods, right? After spending years eating keto foods with plants, it was a gradual slide into a carnivorous style diet where I'm not consuming plants. It was kind of just the natural progression of things. And I've seen this with many people as well. We get a lot of clients who come to us for coaching who've been doing keto and getting results, but just not getting the full spectrum of results that they really wanted. Especially with autoimmune conditions, looking more deeply at the types of foods you're eating is very, very important. Right? And I'm not just talking about carbs, fat, protein. I'm talking about, you know, salicylate heavy foods, foods that are rich in oxalates, phytates. These can have detrimental effects on people who have gut permeability issues. Now, the argument against the carnivorous diet is that, well, your gut should be able to handle these anti-nutrients and that they're actually good in hormetic doses. And this is something that needs to be explored further. I recognize the idea of hormesis, right? I mean, you know, hormetic stressors such as heavy exercise, heat shock, cold exposure. These things can have effects that are beneficial in the body. So certain plant compounds like sulforaphane, which Rhonda Patrick likes to talk about quite a bit. However, Rhonda Patrick, in my opinion, might be forced to rearrange her position, her stated position on the necessity of plants in the diet, because we're going to see a lot more people who are doing better without plants. Like I was saying, we've had a lot of people in our coaching groups, in our keto and carnivore collective, who've had autoimmune conditions, who've started a ketogenic diet and gotten some results, but when they removed most plants, or certain classes of plants, or in some cases, like Maria a couple months ago, who's been bedridden almost her whole life with autoimmune conditions, who's had much of her digestive tract removed surgically, who was told that she needed a high fiber diet. And she removed all fiber and all plant matter from her diet, and she was able to get much of her life back. She was able to move her hands where she was never able to before. They were always swollen. She had to wear compression, not leggings, but compression arm gear because her arms were always swollen. She was finally able to remove her gloves and use her hands. It was such a beautiful thing hearing about her experience, and it greatly reduced her pain. And she got a lot of her function back from this. And that's not the only person. I mean, we've had at least, in the last couple of coaching groups that we do, so we do our keto and carnivore collective every month, or every other month. We've been doing every month for the last 3 months because we've had a higher demand. It allows us to be able to take on more clients at a time. We get a lot of requests for private coaching. I still do private coaching clients, but the Keto Collective, which we've had to change the name of now to the Keto and Carnivore Collective, is a way that we can talk to more people, and you can do it in a community-based setting where you get to support each other, learn from each other's experiences, and it gives us much more time, right? We do 2 live interactive voice chats per week. One of those is a lesson, the other one's just Q&A where we talk with you. There's Q&A at the end of the lessons as well. And then we've got a live Discord server where you're able to talk with us and each other whenever you want. And people can jump into their live voice chat and actually hang out and talk to each other and support each other whenever you want. So it's a really fun way of doing coaching in a community-based setting. Because we do get a lot of clients where I wish I could connect them with each other so that they can share experiences, and this gives us the ability to do that, but it also gives us a lot of data. We get to see a lot of people's blood work, we get to see a lot of people's experiences, we get to read, just reading the questionnaires before each group gives us so much interesting information concerning the progression of people's diet, especially towards carnivory now, because we've had at least 15% of the clients that we've gotten in the last 3 months being interested in and implementing a carnivorous style diet in order to take it a step further. Again, I don't think it's for everybody, but it is something that's doable, that can be very sustainable, and that can be so freaking enjoyable. So I would have never thought that I'd remove plants from the diet. I would have never thought that I would look at animal foods exclusively as the main source of nutrition that I seek. But it happened. And I've got to be honest with myself, and I can't fool myself into saying that the plants are necessary still. A lot of people out there are clutching the idea. A lot of people have been talking about, well, gut microbiota, we need gut microbiome diversity. We need these strains of bacteria, and we believe that they come from plants. I mean, a lot of this is going to have to be questioned and explored more deeply, because I have seen, and I've had conversations with a person who went on a carnivorous style diet and was doing uBiome microbiota testing and found a great increase in microbiota diversity from going carnivorous. And this flies right in the face of the orthodox dogma in modern alternative health field where people are so obsessed with the microbiome. We need that fermentable material in there, people. We've got to get the fiber to ferment in the microbiome. People forget that there are bacteria that break down protein. There are bacteria that break down fat. And perhaps the fiber isn't this magical panacea of health and digestive health that people believe. I mean, I'm seeing people remitting Crohn's, IBS, major digestive issues by removing plants from the diet. Many of them not even removing all plants, many of them just removing oxalate get very, very good results. All right, but the complete elimination diet of carnivory is very simple, and without people having to do as much research, right, into the actual functions and mechanisms of oxalate, the formation of calcium oxalate crystals and the storage of those in the body, how phytates work, people exploring if they're very sensitive to lectins or not. Going straight carnivore for a lot of these people has been interesting because it's a rule that just cuts out all the possible toxic plants in the diet. Or not objectively toxic, but all the possible things that could be offending their microbiome, and getting really elemental with it. So without having to do a bunch of research, they're pulling out all the possible offensive foods from the diet and getting results. So a lot of people are doing keto for fat loss, but I'd say at least 30% of the clients we work with are not fat loss. They're doing it because they've had serious health issues, autoimmune conditions, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, and they realize that this might have something to do with their gut and the foods that they're eating. And a ketogenic diet's a great way of regulating brain chemistry. But looking deeper at the sources of disruptions in the gut, of inflammatory responses in the body, and looking at the toxic effects of some of these plants that we've been told are so good for us, is something that we're going to see be more important in the coming years. So I don't advocate a carnivorous diet for everybody, but I've definitely seen it help quite a few people. So anyways, a ketogenic diet, a low carbohydrate approach, very, very powerful. Do you need plants on it? I've got to eat my words. No, we don't need plants. No, we don't need the fiber. And many of us might do better without it. So I know my buddy Dr. Berg, he recommends 7 to 10 cups of vegetables per day. I've got a lot of clients. I've got people in our keto collective right now who, if they were to eat 7 to 10 cups of vegetables per day, it wouldn't be doing too well. So I'm not saying that he's inherently wrong about that. There are many people who do great with more vegetables, and replacing the wheat, replacing the corn, the soy, the processed junk food with broccoli, with cauliflower, with whole foods-based veggies will definitely result in improved health for many people. But some have to go further. Some of us have been through so many rounds of antibiotics. Some of us have been through very deficient vegan diets that have filled us up with oxalates. I mean, there are people out there who are drinking spinach smoothies every day, and they got kidney stones. Right, Phil Escott got kidney stones after his crazy spinach run. He now finds himself on a carnivorous diet. Now, I've interviewed Phil in the past. You can look for that one on my channel as well. So the plants, are they necessary? No, they're not. Are they bad inherently for everybody? No, of course not. It's about context, guys. That's why I've always used that hashtag, keto in context. I made a bunch of videos using that title as well. Because really, it's all about context. And in my context, I run really well without the plants. Now, of course, I'm not just eating ribeyes. I'm not just eating, grain-fed beef. But there are people who are doing that and still getting results as well. So even though I believe that grass-fed meat is superior, even though I don't want to see feedlots come and destroy the small family farmer in America, in Ecuador where I live, like it did in my former country, my former home country, America. Right? I don't want to see the factory farming system, the wheat, corn, and soy-based agriculture, Cargill and Monsanto, and Tyson Foods take over food production where I live. So I do promote grass-fed beef. I am more into the restorative agriculture model rather than what's falsely called conventional agriculture now, right? The pesticide-based agriculture. Of course I promote these foods, but you know what? There's even people who are getting great results eating just the normal supermarket grain-finished beef. So we've got to explore these issues more deeply. We can't be dogmatic about it and pretend that just because we enjoy it this way or because we read this book, that this must be what is true. We've got to explore the reality behind this. We've got to look deeper into what's really going on here. And pulling out the plants for a lot of people is working. So anyways, we talked about the Keto and Carnivore Collective. The next one is actually starting this Sunday, so it's the last week to sign up for our Keto Carnivore Collective for November. I'm not sure if we're going to do December. We might need to take a break, but the November collective is going to be awesome. If you're interested in private consultations, you can hit me up, but I do recommend looking deeper into, first looking into our group community coaching, the Keto and Carnivore Collective, our community coaching. It's really fun, and I don't know, I much prefer that route, although I do love just talking one-on-one to clients, and some people are more shy. Some people don't want to do it in a group setting, and that's totally cool. So you can check out more at primaledgehealth.com. I mentioned the book. Check out the cookbook, the Ketogenic Edge Cookbook, the training manual for low-carb, ketogenic, and paleo cuisine. We've got a whole section on how to prepare organs in there. You know, the most nutrient-dense parts of the animal that are very affordable and often are the most neglected pieces that your butcher will have. So using foods like marrow, heart, liver, these are some of the most nutritious and delicious foods if prepared correctly, and we show you how to make that in the book, so check that out. And remember, you're way more than what you eat. It's not just about diet. Okay, so you know, I'm out here in the sun, getting that natural nitric oxide release from my blood, getting the vitamin D production, and sunshine goes way beyond just vitamin D, guys. So anyways, you're more than what you eat. Get off the computer, get away from the TV, kill your television, kill your freaking Facebook account. Get out there and live your life. Peace.